I don't know who that laughing guy is, but oh, I can see us now.
We're here.
Oh, I gotta mute the thing on my phone, or it's gonna echo. That'd be bad. All right, welcome everyone to the PoGoRaids Master League Championship Division Draft. I am Crispy Chris 27, and I am joined here with Speediest Chief. Would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, of course, Chris. I'm really excited to be here with PoGoRaids. Thank you so much for bringing me on. And we talked about this a little bit before the stream, but you're going to be the expert here, and I'm just going to kind of evaluate some of these awesome picks as they come through. But as we see here, we have the names on the board. We have I believe this is a snake draft as well, indicated by the arrows, right?
Yes. So all of our drafts over at Pogo Raids are snake drafts. So for the Master League Champions division, we have 10 participants in our draft. We have Stefan, Fatal Error, Dutch Goku, Sniped, Cabana, Oscar, Blaze, 789, David, and Heater in that order. So the snake draft basically will work like the last person to pick in the first round will get the first pick in the second round, and then so on and so forth until they've each created their teams of six. Okay, we are hearing something about our volume is a little too low. So we're gonna pause briefly. All right. All right. I
Just
have
blow
been
out your
told that
eardrums.
fixing the audio may have gone a little bit overkill, but hopefully that's a bit better and not too overpowering. But um, so yeah, I don't know what, if anything, you know about Master League Draft before, but a lot of things are going to be a bit different as far as between what you see a lot in Go Battle League and what we see a lot in Draft. A lot of things that are really good in Go Battle League are not nearly as good in Draft, and vice versa, just because the meta in Draft is a lot more varied and not as condensed as in Go Battle League. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure a lot of picks that are not very, as they say, meta in the open Go Battle League are going to be a bit more useful here in the draft. I mean, when you limit things down, you only have one Dialga, one Giratina, one Ho-Oh. Building out the rest of your team seems like a big challenge, and maybe it takes on more of like a Master League Premier Classic kind of feel as we get deeper down and past the legendary Pokemon. Would you agree, Chris?
I'd agree a little bit, but another thing you will see a lot of is a lot of the legendary Pokemon that are like just not good enough to compete in a Go Battle League area. We also see a lot of those get picked later on too. So things like Zapdos, Raikou, Articuno, stuff like that that you just don't see in Go Battle League. We're going to definitely see those as we go through the draft as well. But a lot of your big players in Premier Classic, we're going to see some of those as well here. Some of them are actually may go a bit earlier than you might think, but I think we might be able to get started and see how these picks played out. So this draft was conducted about a week ago, so I have seen these picks already, but you have not. So I'm definitely going to be interested in seeing your reactions, especially in these first few rounds, seeing if anything you see get picked is a surprise to see it earlier or later than you might expect.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So these trainers up here, I actually recognize some of the names. Stefan, Dutch Goku, Oscar, Blazingly Blaze, Darkest David as well. Are there any trainers here that have participated in Master League drafts before? Maybe if chat's not familiar with the PoGoRaids Master League draft format?
Yes. So PoGoRaids, our Master League draft format, as well as our Great League draft format, we have 3 different structures. So we have our standard divisions, which anyone is participating in, and if it's your first season, that's where you'll start off. And then the winners and runners up of the standard divisions will promote to the competitors divisions during the next season. And then the winners and runners up of that, they will promote to the champions division. So all these battlers in the champions division were either in the champions lobby last season or won or were runner up in the competitive lobbies. All right, I'm being told that we need one more final break to adjust the volume. All right. So all of these battlers here, these people have all played each other quite a bit before. I've played all of them quite a bit before. So I believe Oscar has won the last 2 championships for Master League, and before that 789 went on a little streak of his own. So yeah, these people, all these battlers have a lot of experience in this format and with battling each other.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. I'm excited to see what kind of picks come out of this format from these very, very experienced trainers.
All right, I think we can get started now and see the first pick, maybe.
All right, and there were no ban rounds, no restrictions.
No, so our Ultra League and Great League. Oh dear, that was a bit of a spoiler.
Chat, don't look, spoilers.
Don't look. Yeah, so our Master League competitions do not have band rounds. Our Great League and Ultra League ones do, though. Part of that is just because there's more viable picks in the draft format for Ultra League and Great League, but also from a lot of experience with the Master League draft, you tend to, like, a band round can sort of negatively impact the balance in the draft, just because, as we'll see here, there tends to be like a good balance without bans, but if you ban like 10 mons, all of a sudden the first few picks or the first few placements in the draft end up a lot stronger than the back half, whereas without bans, it's really pretty well balanced all along. So the first pick in the draft now is on screen without the rest of round 1 is Lugia from Stefan. So,
Go ahead.
So, highest stat product in the game right there, and nothing really walls that very much other than like Melmetal, Metagross, and a few of the other pure steel types, and even those don't really want to take an Aeroblast. So this doesn't really surprise me, but I'm interested in your thoughts here.
Yeah, Chris, like you said, highest stat product of any Pokemon. I mean, Lugia strikes me as a great generalist. a great anti-dragon because you are dealing those dragon tails in those 3-turn intervals that aren't stab, but because you're not taking any super effective dragon breath damage back, you're actually able to dominate a lot of dragons. We saw last season in GBL as well. A lot of trainers were safe switching their Lugia into Giratinas, which when you look at it on face value, a psychic versus a ghost, it feels really backwards, but it just has such an incredible stat product in bulk that it's able to work through a lot of matchups. And like you said, Aeroblast is a great move, although I wish they'd up the boost chances just a little bit.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to note before we continue is that in the draft setup here, it's going to be a round robin, so everyone will play each other once, and they are allowed to TM anything they want in between battles against different people, but not in the same set. And additionally, they get the normal and the Shadowmon with the same pick. So Stefan can feel free to run Shadow Lugia as well if he wants. And he also doesn't have to be locked into Aeroblast. If he has to fight like a Heatran or a Tyranitar on a team, he can switch that to Hydro Pump as well if he wants.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, that's interesting. It adds more variability there as well. And some of these Shadow Legendaries are really strong if you've been lucky enough to get the good IV ones, right?
Yeah. Shadow Lugia, I don't think is gonna see a ton of play compared to the other Shadow Legendaries, just because a lot of its bulk is already in its defense, which gets a significantly greater defense drop than attack increase as a Shadow, just because the attack stat is a lot lower than its defense. But I still definitely think this makes sense as a first pick here for Stefan. So I think we can go look at the second pick now. So Fatal Error takes everyone's least favorite Go Battle League Mon to fight Zacian as the second pick.
Yeah. Yeah, this one doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest.
Yeah, so one thing to note that is different from draft that will negatively impact Zacian a bit is the fact that since we're playing a whole set, you don't have the moveset unpredictability after the first game as you do have in GBL. But definitely you still have a lot of flexibility overall, and Pure Fairy is a really good typing to have in Master League as well. So this also doesn't really surprise me much. It's a very strong pick as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, moving on to Dutch Goku. True YCP. You can also run Fire Feign if you really are annoyed at Metagross. So Dutch Goku takes everyone's second least favorite Go Battle League Mon, Dialga here.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll be running Metal Claw on this, but
Right.
a dragon that beats pretty much every other dragon is good to have because, spoiler alert, there are a lot of dragons in Master League.
hmm No, absolutely. There's a rule in GBL, right? If you haven't seen the Dialga yet, it's in the back.
Yeah, and that will probably apply to most people playing Dutch Goku in draft as well. I
Yeah.
remember having Dialga one season, and even against 789 who wanted to bring like triple Dialga counters every single game, it's still just so good with a shield advantage. You kind of have to bring it almost every game.
Yeah, exactly. I would expect Dutch Goku to pair this Dialga pick with a lot of shield pressure Pokemon, a lot of fast charge moves to clear the way. Because once you get the shield advantage, like you mentioned, Chris, it's really hard to stop Dialga.
Yeah. All right. So Sniped picks next, and I believe we can, yeah, so he takes Giratina Origin, which is another mon we see a lot of in GBL. In draft, one thing that makes Origin, as well as Altered, actually, which we haven't seen yet, but I'm sure we will see soon enough, is you can switch their fast moves. So if you have to fight like the Snorlax team or the Zarude team, you can run Dragon Tail on your Origin instead. And now you've got not only the triple ghost moveset that we all hate to fight in GBL, you've also got basically Dragon Breath Giratina to deal with.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. How often do you see Dragon Pulse over the double ghost set as well?
I don't think you'll see Dragon Pulse too often. However, you can do some crazy stuff with a double dragon moveset if you want to. Like, you actually beat, I think, like Yveltal, Meloetta, Zarude in zero shield scenarios with the double dragon moveset.
Oh,
So
man.
it's definitely something that is viable if necessary.
Mhm.
All right, moving on to Cabana. Cabana loves his freaking Zekrom and picks it every single time, so I'm not surprised that he's decided to take it again here.
Mhm. No, I really do like the Zekrom pick. Kind of overlooked a lot of the time in typical GBL, I think. But I think Vergiverg had a legend run with Zekrom, which is really awesome. And it's got a pretty variable move set, although I don't typically see like a Flash Cannon Zekrom very often, right?
No, but that flash cannon probably does a lot of damage to that Zacian if Fatal Error doesn't take something that'll make you want to not run that later.
Exactly.
Charge Beam, unfortunately, is pretty much useless, but this would be Zekrom stock would go up so much with like a good electric fast move, but even with just Dragon Breath, you have a lot of charge move variations you can run with that. So definitely solid pick here as well.
Mhm.
Then Oscar, who's won the last two draft championships. Thunderfang Zekrom win. I would like Thunderfang Zekrom. So Oscar takes Palkia, which
Mhm.
for not even that long ago was like almost always a top like 4 or 5 pick. It's fallen back a bit with the new additions to the meta because like Zarude, Zacian, neither of those are particularly great for Palkia to fight. But it's still got one of the like highest raw percentage wins of anything in the Master League
Mhm.
just because dragon fast move damage with either breath or dragon tail plus the aqua tail spam is like super strong.
Mhm.
You beat most things that aren't bigger dragons or fairies with your Palkia.
Mhm.
So I definitely like this pick here too.
Yeah. Also good for kind of containing Ho-Oh, which has gotten a lot more play recently, right?
Yeah. So we've seen a lot more Ho-Oh in Go Battle League as of late. I don't think Ho-Oh's position has changed that much in the draft meta as of late, though. If anything, it's definitely gone up a little bit because we've got Zacian and Zarude to deal with now, but also, unlike in GBL, there's no reason your Zacian can't have Wild Charge to fight the Ho-Oh team here because you know who has the Ho-Oh ahead of time. But
That's a
yeah,
really good point.
as I think that's Blaze said in the chat, Palkia beats most of everything that goes in the later rounds. So one
Mm.
thing we're going to see as this progresses is a lot of teams are going to wait to pick a Dialga counter because there's a lot of Dialga counters that are very good at countering Dialga that go and you can get in like round 5, round 6. Whereas with
Mhm.
Palkia, you don't necessarily have that luxury. There's just fewer things that can beat it badly. So most of your Palkia counters, if you don't get something in the first 2 or 3 rounds, you're gonna have a lot of trouble dealing with it.
That makes a lot of sense. Sometimes those picks that dominate a lot of the lower round picks are good to grab early.
Yeah. So we can move on to Blaze now. His round 1 pick. I think we're going to see the other Tina come out here. So we don't see a lot of Altered in Go Battle League, but Altered, like Palkia, has very high win rate against like the entirety of Master League. Whereas like Palkia, we don't see it that much in GBL because a lot of things that are common in GBL happen to be the few things that really beat these things pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you can commit yourself to lasting through those long matchups, especially if you're running Shadow Claw and you're throwing a Dragon Claw or a Shadow Sneak every 10 or 14 turns, then I think you can win a lot of matchups. You just have to grind them out, kind of.
Yeah, so Altered is really good safe switch here. There's not much of anything that like horribly walls this thing, and even if you get like an Yveltal caught on it, like you said, like the Dragon Claw spam is so much that you're gonna make them throw, or they're gonna let you waste out the switch timer from throwing so many moves you can just get out afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And also with the Dragon Breath flexibility, as well as Ancient Power for that Ho-Oh team whenever we see that one go. All right. We can go to 789. Yeah, before Dragon Tail buff and the Z's entered the meta, like 789 said, Altered was pretty consistently like the number 2 pick in draft, but the new additions to the meta have not been very kind to it. So 789 takes Mewtwo, which I think we see a lot of that in GBL as well.
Yeah, definitely. Probably the most moveset flexibility here. But I mean, is there ever a reason for Mewtwo to run Flamethrower or Thunderbolt? I feel like Ice Beam, Focus Blast, Shadow Ball seem to be the kind of like the top 3 next to Psy Strike, right?
Yeah, I will say that the next picker, Darkest David, has definitely ruined my life by running a Shadow Ball Focus Blast Mewtwo against me before.
Oh no.
Um, so yeah, it would not surprise me at all if 789 took Mewtwo here purely so David could not have it. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of moveset flexibility here. You can run some crazy things if you've got the resources like Shadow Ball, Focus Blast. You can run your Shadow Mewtwo with whatever you want. And also, we've noticed a lot of these early picks are dragons. There's still going to be a lot of dragons you can get later on too that are pretty good. So I think 789's thinking, oh, I can just take a Dragon Breath user round 3, round 4. Let's get something that I can't replace as easily in the earlier rounds.
Gotcha. Makes a lot of sense.
Speaking of things you can't replace, oh, I'm being told we need to pause. Oh, oh, we're being told to pause after heater, not after here. So we will continue to Darkest David's round 1 pick. Oscar says late dragons are weak dragons. That is a little bit true, honestly. So David takes Kyogre, which can beat pretty much everything that's not a grass or dragon type.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Chris. How do you feel about the Kyogre going here? I mean, I know it's a extremely bulky Pokemon, but based on the first wave of picks here, it doesn't look like it has a lot of play. But is this like a high value pick down the stretch?
Yeah, that's exactly it pretty much. Kyogre is going to be similar to Palkia and Altered in a way where you're going to lose to most of the round 1 and round 2 picks, but it's going to be increasingly more difficult to fix a weakness to this as you continue along in the draft. Because a lot of the electrics that you might think are going to be good Kyogre counters, can just get Waterfall down in the 2 shield if you want. If you've got a Zapdos, I'm pretty sure you have to bait at least once or you get Waterfall down. You get a Raikou, you have to bait Shadow Ball or you get Waterfall down. If you have a Magnezone, then heaven help you, you just straight up get Waterfall down. Same thing with like an Electivire, something like that. You really need a dragon or a grass type to efficiently beat this thing. And it has Blizzard, so have fun with that.
Right? You have to flip that coin probably once a set.
My guess here is David is... So Dragons and Whale are a very classic draft combo. I'm guessing David's plan here was Heater's not going to take Dragonite and Reshiram on this wheel, and then I'm going to get one of them to pair with my Whale, or I'm going to get Melmetal or Groudon or something like that. So he's got a lot of flexibility for round 2 with this pick to make a really strong core, regardless of what Heater takes as his 2 picks.
No, you're right, and that's where draft strategy comes in mind, right? Because as we see that arrow on the right side, the snake is going to start working its way back, so you get those back-to-back pickups virtually.
Yeah.
Right?
So Heater here has an opportunity to take a very strong core if he wants. So we can see what his first mon he chooses is, and then I think we have to pause so we don't spoil all of round 2. So Heater takes Melmetal here. So I'm interested on your thoughts about this, because this, I think, is one mon that we see a very large difference in where it gets picked between the Champions divisions and the Standard divisions on PoGoRaids.
Yeah, I think Melmetal is really interesting. I mean, it's got a lot of flexibility. I think it requires a lot of good timing as well, depending on what matchups you're in, whether or not to throw the superpower. But I think Melmetal kind of excels either as a lead that you can use to kind of grab shields early, or perhaps as a closer as well. If you just square up against a dragon and you're able to just maintain shield advantage and throw rock slides, you can do really well. It also does have that flash cannon utility for the fairies. So if you're trapped against a, let's say Heater decides to pick a couple of dragons and then he runs into a Togekiss team, you can always just flash cannon surprise a Charmer with one shot, right? But I think Melmetal is a solid first round pick so far. What do you think?
Yeah, so a lot of what you said, I definitely agree with. You have a lot of set flexibility with this. I've even been known to run Hyper Beam on my Melmetal in draft a few times. Definitely, if they are not expecting that, then things go very badly for Zekrom that thinks it can easily take anything you throw at it. And you've got the Thunderbolt for the Kyogre as well. The one issue with Melmetal, though, is it's the same sort of issue with Dialga in that you can really easily cover a Melmetal weakness in the later rounds because there's just so many things that beat it quite badly. So I don't think we see it have nearly as much success in draft as we used to in GBL. We don't even see it that much in GBL anymore, honestly. But it's definitely, though, a very strong mon at the wheel, especially if Heater takes a dragon here. Dragon plus Melmetal, dragon plus Whale. Those are very common cores we see people make that have had a lot of success in draft before.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, and especially in the show 6 format, having that Melmetal in the back in GBL might really work out well for you. But if your opponent has the Excadrill, you can guarantee that Pokemon is going to come every single game.
Yeah. And the other thing that makes Melmetal not as valuable, there's only one team that has Dialga. There's only one team that has Lugia. You're not going to fight a Lugia Dialga team unless your division has royally screwed up. So the fact that some combinations of Pokemon just don't happen in draft sort of can negatively impact not just Melmetal, but a lot of the viability of common GBL mons. The fact that you just don't see like Origin plus Dialga on the same team in draft can cause a lot of things we see a lot in GBL to not be as useful in a draft format. So I'm being told we are going to take a break because we need to fix the presentation of draft picks so we don't spoil the entire round again.
Okay.
Any pick so far that you are surprised has not been picked yet?
Like you mentioned before, the holo in draft doesn't seem to be as prominent as we've seen in blind formats. But I know that Groudon does have the number one spot on the PvPoke rankings. Where I think it comes up short is that it can be inflexible at times. It does have that same kind of Lugia utility with the Dragon Tail, able to beat some of the other Dragon types in the meta. But I don't see it being a high value pick early on. Or am I wrong on that?
I think Groudon is one of those mons I think can go either pretty early in the first round or pretty mid round 2, depending on just how much people value the moveset flexibility. All right, it looks like we are back now, so we can look at Heater's pick. I think for round 2, a lot of this is going to be just looking at, okay, what's the best mon we have left to finish off this core. So Heater takes Dragonite, which I think makes a lot of sense. Dragonite Melmetal prior to Drill getting Mudshot was like a nigh unbreakable core. It's a lot. You've got a lot more options now with Zacian, Metagross, Excadrill, but outside of those three, there's not a whole lot that can take on both of these.
I really do like the Dragonite pick here. Kind of overlooked, and it does have some great utility against some of the late round picks I assume we'll see in terms of fighters as well as maybe even it does pretty well against Zarude as well, right? Being a grass type.
Yeah. And then David for his next pick. Dragonite's gone, so there is one top tier dragon remaining, and that's Reshiram. So this is a core I actually had last season that did not go well for me after the first round. I think it's definitely a good core though, and David can probably do a much better job of backing it up than I did. So definitely we'll see what else he pairs with it in the later rounds. But Whale Dragon, pretty classic core here.
I absolutely agree.
And then, yeah, we still don't see the Groudon come out yet. And then for 789's next pick, we still do not see the Groudon come out, but he's decided Mewtwo was not enough nuking potential. I need Ho-Oh as well.
Yeah, I do like the Ho-Oh pick here. Again, we talk about shield advantage being really critical for a lot of these Pokemon. Dialga and Mewtwo come to mind as being the most useful Pokemon with shield advantage. And when Ho-Oh can come in and just command shields from a lot of these late round picks, I think it's a really good pickup here for our 789.
Yeah. Another thing is with Ho-Oh, a lot of the time you're going to like Brave Bird swap out. Mewtwo's a really strong safe swap that you can switch to from the lead if you do opt for ABB, always Brave Bird. Yeah, so people still, I'm a little surprised at this point that no one's bitten the bullet on Groudon yet. Back in V5, I won the champs lot the Palkia Groudon core, and it's starting to look like Oscar may get that core here as well. Unless Blaze decides he wants Groudon, which
Chris, can you be honest with me? Is chat trolling me on the Groudon pick, or do you really think Groudon needs to go here soon?
Groudon definitely needs to go here soon. I don't necessarily agree with the people who are saying it should always go round one. I've never thought it was really that strong a round one pick, even after the Dragon Tail buff, but it should definitely be going surely within the next 2 picks. It usually goes before Ho-Oh as well, so it's interesting to me to see it here before. But I think Ho-Oh with Mewtwo, 789 probably wanted to have a bit more fast move pressure, but yeah, like Stefan, I think in chat hit the nail on the head pretty much. It's around a 10th spot pick, and some people just don't like it. So is Blaze one of those people? I guess we're gonna find out. Blaze is one of those people, as it turns out. So Blaze wants to die to whoever takes Yveltal. So I know Blaze has used Meloetta before and liked it. Meloetta's actually got the second highest stat product in the game after Lugia. So I don't hate this pick, but I'm not sure. Well, I don't really want to fight Palkia Groudon, which is almost surely what's going to happen here. But I think I might rather fight that than Palkia Meloetta, if I'm being honest, because that is a lot of fast move pressure, and that is a lot of. It's a very strong core as well. So Oscar, like regardless, was in pretty strong shape here. But you also have the quick attack flexibility if you want to get not walled by dark types. And I know Blaze has used that in the past as well. So this could be a case of just like personal preference, but this core is definitely interesting to me. Not much walls Meloetta outside of steals, and Altered is a very strong anti-steal.
Agreed. It seems like a pretty good pick, and Meloetta. I mean, this is kind of a pick that I didn't even have on my radar for the second round. Is this typically a second round pick, or is this one of the third round picks?
I think this tends to be like late round 1, early round 2 picks. Okay. So this is about where I would expect to see it go.
Okay.
All right. Surely, Oscar. Yeah, right around the wheel. A lot of the things you're going to see like in this area. And there we go. We finally see the Groudon get picked. A lot of these things are mons that just tend to go around the wheel area in like late round 1, early round 2. And yeah, this is a very strong core. Weak to Togekiss and potentially other Charmers as well. But there is a lot of anti-dragon pressure here.
No, absolutely, and very strong against steel and fire as well.
Yeah, fortunately, there's not really any fire in Master League outside of Ho-Oh, at least in this particular format. But fire coverage is still going to be pretty important on a lot of mons, and having the ability to like catch that on a Palkia if he takes some sort of steel, which I'm sure he will, because that's a little weak to Togekiss, but other than that, there's not a whole lot that really threatens both of those mons. I guess Groudon, or not Groudon, Dragonite, but also like you can run Dragon Tail against Dragonite. So let's see what Cabana takes here, because this is um the top 15 for the most part. These are almost always the first 15 picks we see in Master League Draft in some sort of order. And now we see the monkey come out to play.
Yeah, so I mean, okay, this one surprises me a little bit.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on this as a core?
I have not seen Zarude plus Zekrom before. I guess the Z core, which shall be referred to from now on. So Zarude is another one like Meloetta as a very high stat product. I don't know about this one though. It's definitely like a pretty. I don't think it's a bad pick at this stage. I think if Cabana's not careful though, he's gonna be very weak to some things as the rounds progress. Is both of these things lose to ice? They're both weak to charm. They're both not very great against Dialga. And he also has perfectly set up both of those Giratinas to run Dragon Fast moves against him as well, which is something you'll want to consider. So I think he is going to need a Steel type at some point.
Absolutely. I think Cabana probably has the latter part of the draft mapped out and maybe is kind of gathering value picks right now and needs to build a strong supporting cast behind
I know he's a very big Heatran fan. So he may be hoping to get that later. I think that would help him out a lot here.
Absolutely.
But yeah, definitely not a bad start, but I think he does need to be a bit more careful with his later picks than some of these other cores need to be.
Okay.
And then Sniped with his round 2 pick. Oh, wait, I'm told that I gotta get something for this.
Oh, here it comes. Here we go. Yeah.
So Snipe takes a Gyarados here, which we've seen a lot of Origin Gary teams in the past, and a lot of them have done pretty well as well. So I'm not surprised at all to see this get picked here. You've got the waterfall flexibility for people who decide Kyogre doesn't exist. They're going to learn Gyarados is also a big problem if you don't have a water resist. It's just really spammy, and it can take on a lot of the dragons that Origin struggles with.
Speaking to Gyarados, we see this a lot in Sylph Arena factions as being one of the most flexible Pokemon, solid anti-dragon in a show 6, right?
Yeah, for sure. Also, the outrage flexibility too as a charge move in the cases you don't necessarily need crunch. Can actually beat Dialga with Outrage. And you also have the Shadow Gyarados too, which is generally a bit better against the dragons, I would say. But yeah, definitely a good pick here for Snipe. He is a little weak to that monkey, so Cabana already feeling a bit justified with that pick.
Exactly right. Hopefully they pair first round, right?
Maybe. So they'll actually. There's no set round structure necessarily, so they'll just fight whoever, whenever, for the most
Oh,
part.
that's right. It's a round robin. My
Yeah,
apologies.
so. Yeah, Snipe has the Shadow Hundo Gary, I know well, so be on the lookout for that. So let's see what Dutch Goku takes to go with his Dialga. I have a feeling that it's not going to be a surprise to anyone.
Ooh, here we go. It's
Okay.
Pidgey.
It does
Pidgey.
not. It seems to be an invisible pick. Um.
Ah,
Okay, there we go. So that is what everyone always wants to pair with their Dialga. The biggest Dialga counter and the biggest Dialga counter that we've got.
exactly. If you want to smash the Excadrills and Metagross, this is a good way to do it.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised at all with this pick. There's not much that can reliably core break that.
Mhm. Gotcha.
Yeah, we can move to Fatal Error now. Hopefully he doesn't follow his namesake with his pick. So he takes a Veltal here, which I think is kind of weird if I'm being
Yeah.
honest. You kind of want to fight that with Zacian on your team.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe to
Um,
cover the Mewtwo picks and maybe the Giratina Origin as well to protect the
yeah,
Zacian.
yeah. It's also pretty strong against most of the steel types we have here, like Metagross and such. I don't think it's a bad pick, but I think like Cabana, if he's in a bit of a precarious situation here. So I know I mentioned earlier about teams that don't know Kyogre exists. Right now, this is a team that does not know that Kyogre exists. Um,
Yeah.
and it might go badly for him depending on what he takes the next couple rounds, because Kyogre counters in the later rounds are either not very good or just not worth it.
Hmm. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching Cabana's team and Fatal Error. I want to see how these two teams shape up
Yeah.
in particular.
All right, so I think we can just do Stefan's round 2 and 3 picks at the same time here. Or maybe we can't. I'm not sure what the presentation overlords say. They say yes, so we see Genesect and Garchomp. I'm definitely interested to hear what you think about Genesect here, because that is. I think this is the first Mon we've seen picked that we just do not see in Go Battle League at all.
Yeah, at all is right. I think I mean you've got tons of moveset variability with all the different
Yeah,
strides that are coming out, right?
yeah. So, um, as of this draft, they will have access to the Shock Drive because it was released before the draft started. So you'll be able to have all the Technoblasts that are released as well as the standard Genesect. The typing's really good, and I think it pairs really well with Lugia because not much beats Lugia other than Steel types, and Genesect is like arguably the best anti-Steel Mon in all of draft. And then
No,
we see
absolutely.
Garchomp, which is another super strong anti-Steel Mon, as well as Stefan now has Double Dragon, which is something that we see a lot in draft, and a lot of teams end up week 2 in draft as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is fascinating, but I agree, Chris. I really do like these 2 picks. Genesect, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to wrap my head more around that one.
Yeah. But, oh yes, my notes actually said David is right. My notes said best anti-steal other than Giratina.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
All right. So what does Fatal Error do here? That is the $1 million question.
Drum roll, chat.
Drum roll, please. It
Okay.
is the Fat Walrus itself. um, yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know about this one. I think this was a little early, and I don't think it helps a lot with what his team was struggling against before.
Yeah, I have to say, I think the Walrein is probably something that can get picked up maybe in a later round. Round 3 seems a bit early with a lot of legendaries still on the table. But I mean, I guess you'd say great anti-dragon does have earthquake coverage, but I don't think it's got a high enough attack stat to really one shot some of the stronger steals.
Yeah, so for the most part, I think I agree with you. It's pretty similar in viability to like Mamoswine and Regice, I think I would say. I don't think you would want to take it this early. I also don't think it would get back to him for round 4, though. So if he really wanted it, I think he probably has to take it now. But I don't think that you really want that with this team. It's not a Kyogre counter, which is what he really needs. And he also, if he can make the Kyogre run Blizzard instead of Thunder at some point, then maybe, but not much is going to make Kyogre run Blizzard that isn't just a better Kyogre counter.
Yeah, absolutely. And Walrein does not want to take a Thunder. They won't be dealing much damage to each other, but Earthquake just doesn't strike me as a move that's going to really scare Kyogre too much.
Yeah. All right, so Dutch Goku, I bet, will be able to take pretty big advantage of this with his next pick. And you said you thought Mewtwo had the most moveset flexibility, but you were wrong, and here it is.
The TM sync itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Dutch Goku has a very strong start here, I think. You've got Dialga and then 2 things that beat basically every Dialga counter pretty badly, and you can customize that Mew move set for whatever your opponent wants to throw at you.
Exactly. You've got a great core here with Dialga and the I'm blanking on the name.
Landorus.
Landorus. And then you've got the Mew as a safe swap, and as well you've got a lot of shield pressure. Mew is almost guaranteed to grab a shield, right? Especially in the first game when you don't know the moveset.
Yeah. So fortunately for Dutch Goku's opponents, a lot of these round 1 picks have just too much stats for Mew to get through, even with like a strong moveset against it, but definitely some of the later picks are going to struggle here. And then Snipe gets the Premier Classic BBML core, Gyarados and Excadrill, to go with his Origin, which I'm not surprised at this at all. I know he likes Excadrill. A lot of the drafters here like Excadrill. Yeah, not a monkey counter, but
That's definitely true.
definitely.
Oh, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but like definitely a strong pick here, I think, for sure.
I'd be shocked to see it go any lower than here.
Yeah, like Cabana surely would have taken that next pick if it didn't get picked here. And there we finally see everyone's favorite charmer, the Togekiss, goes. I don't know why, though. I guess he didn't want to fight it.
Yes.
But, like, that's another ice weakness that's exacerbated here.
Yeah, that was my thought exactly. Sometimes if you realize that you're really weak to something, you're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to fight Togekiss. I'll just pick it up, you know?
Yeah. This is about where we normally see Togekiss get picked in the Champs Division. Part of that is because the Champs Division is notorious for absolutely despising Togekiss and everything with Charm. But the other thing is, unlike in GBL, you don't see like teams with no charm resist. Usually, pretty much everyone's going to try to take a steel type at some point, and if you get stuck in that matchup, you're just not going to have a fun time.
Exactly right.
Speaking of taking a steel type, we see the Metagross come out for Oscar here, almost as a direct response to the Togekiss pick. I like this pick for Oscar quite a bit because that Togekiss was basically his biggest weakness, and now he's got that covered.
No, absolutely. I love Metagross's sweeping potential as well with the Earthquake Meteor Mash combination. You can also run Psychic, but I don't see many Psychic targets so far.
Yeah. Yeah, if 789 doesn't take a steal at some point, you can run Psychic so you can hit the Ho-Oh for neutral. And the Shadow Metagross with Psychic actually has some decent matchups against some of the dragons that the normal version struggles with because you can't reach the Earthquake, like Zekrom, Palkia, Reshiram. Psychic helps those matchups out a lot when shields are in play.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And then Blaze probably wants something to cover the dark weakness he's forming here. So yeah, the Zamazenta there, I think that makes a lot of sense for him. You've got more moveset flexibility with that as well, with the Crunch, the Close Combat, the Iron Head. You can even run Ice Feign if you really want to.
So,
Yeah,
do you think the next move is to pick up something to address Charm? Is that Blazingly Blaze next priority?
Yeah, he's a little weak to Charm right now. Meloetta handles most of the Charmers pretty well, but it does struggle a bit against Shadow Gardevoir because of it resisting the confusions. So yeah, I think an anti-Charmer would be a good pick for Blaze. He may actually... Him and Cabana both want a steal as their next pick, I think, and Blaze has the advantage of picking first in the next round, so that may not end well for Cabana.
Yeah, a long time until that draft snakes back around.
Yeah, so 789, what's he gonna take that also doesn't want any shields to be in play? He takes Goodra.
Ooh.
So, opting for Goodra over Latios here. Probably because he doesn't want to get memed by T-Tar later, if I had to guess. But yeah, imagine fighting the Mewtwo Ho-Oh team and then shielding a Muddy Water.
Yeah, that's really tough. You've got so much shield pressure and then so many baits going on with the Goodra. Oh man.
Yeah. Another thing, the Champs Division also notorious for their hatred of Charmers as well as their hate of baiting. So it would not surprise me if he's just gonna Draco stuff and then go to his Ho-Oh and then Brave Bird everything. But 789 has a lot of nukes. But he might struggle against opponents that just decide to two shield for alignment, and then if someone has like a SmackDown T-Tar or something for that Ho-Oh, that could be a problem for him.
Yeah, the chat is saying the Tyranitar looks really, really scary. I wonder if it's going to get soon.
Yeah, so one thing you'll learn as you do a lot of these drafts, stuff like T-Tar, Mamoswine, a few other things like that. They always look so much better after round 3 than they end up looking when the draft is finished at round 6. Because all the fighters tend to go like late round 5, round 6, and
Mhm.
that tends to be where your T-Tar Mammo counters go.
Mhm.
But yeah, like right now, T-Tar has a lot of play against that team. The Bite T-Tar has a lot of play against Sniped. Shadow Smackdown T-Tar is gonna ruin Fatal Error's life. If the Zacian gets locked into it. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So, what does David go with here? He's a little weak to Dialga right now. And he decides to become even more weak to Dialga by taking Latios.
Okay.
I don't. I think this is actually a pretty good pick for him, though. You've got the Whale Double Dragon here now.
Mhm.
And Heater almost certainly would have liked Latios for Melmetal Double Dragon. And like we said earlier, Dialga counter is pretty easy to come by even in the late rounds, but we're starting to be scraping the bottom of the barrel as far as dragons go.
Mhm. Exactly right, yeah. They were plentiful at the beginning, but we're starting to, go a little dry here.
Yeah. And then let's see Heater's round 3 pick, and then I want to get your thoughts on the cores we've got here so far. So we see the other Lando arrive to join the party, as well as Sylveon on the other.
Alright. Interesting, yeah, the Lando, then the Sylveon right afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if he's targeting something specific with the picks here.
Mhm.
But Lando is Sylveon has gone back into hiding. But the Lando is a pretty good value at this point, I think. You've got a lot of moveset flexibility with here. This too. You've got outrage for all the dragons.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you cover like the Metagross, the Excadrill, all those things, the few things that do fall or that do beat the Melmetal Dragonite core. Yeah,
Mhm.
he's targeting Metagross and Dragontail Groudon here. You could even run Outrage for your Palkia, so
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking here, I know we got a sneak peek at that round 4 pick for Heater, but I'm just looking at all the bodyguards that Dragonite is assembling here. I mean, you've got your Melmetal there for the dragons, the, Sylveon tentatively for the dragon support as well, and then the, Lando is gonna help you against a lot of the steals maybe that Dragonite doesn't do too well against, so it's like, a VIP with several bodyguards around them.
yeah. So, before we get to, we're halfway through the draft now, so I'm interested in what your thoughts on the cores we've got here so far are, because as we progress now, what we're going to start seeing these competitors do is instead of starting to like complement the mons they already have, they're going to start directly targeting the cores of their opponents,
Mhm.
is what will tend to happen a lot in these later rounds.
No, absolutely. As you see the other teams start to form, you don't want to leave yourself open to too many weaknesses, and then it becomes kind of a balancing act between building your own team and then countering your opponents. Obviously, in any kind of draft format. I think a couple of things I wanted to mention. It looks like the two best steals, unless I'm forgetting the third. We've got Excadrill Metagross going in round 3. Only one Charmer so far as well. The Walrein pick is really still surprising to me. I feel like maybe a later round could have been suitable there, but I know it's very, very good in the meta. And if you look at some of the matchups as well, it does dominate a lot of the dragons, and it's especially a direct answer to that Garchomp that we see just one round prior that Stefan picked. I
Yeah.
A lot of the cores are kind of what we expected, and I think you broke them down really well. I think the two teams I'm really curious to watch how they fill out. I'm really curious about Fatal Error's team and Cabana as well. I think Cabana may be leaning a bit too heavy in one direction, but they've got 3 rounds to try to correct what they've got,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so we also, at this point in time, we want to ask chat to pick what their favorite 3-mon core is so far. And we also want to announce the PoGoRaids is hosting the final remote tournament for our season 1 of remote tournaments, which is going to be our 48-hour round Premier Overused Cup. So signups for that, I believe, are going to be closing quite soon here. I think the plan was to be starting that tournament as soon as this stream was over. But it's a fun meta. We had a live tourney last weekend. We had a promo tourney on King's stream, which you actually shoutcasted, I believe. But it's a pretty fun meta, so I'd encourage you all to come and join and try it out.
Absolutely, chat. I see the link there as well. Sign up. I see a couple of chatters are actually designating their favorite teams as well. The Double Dragon or Dragon plus Meloetta lineup. Stefan, Oscar, Goku, and Sniped.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to point out here is one of the effects that happens in draft. We keep talking about Fatal Error and Cabana, wondering if maybe they're going to be in a bit more trouble later on than some of these other people. But one side effect of taking Walrein a bit too early, maybe, is now the teams around his pick are going to be stronger as a result of that.
Exactly. I see JJan advocating for RPS back lines. JJan, don't ever change.
Dutch Goku says he doesn't like Blaze's team because it's good against him.
Yeah, that's a very valid reason.
Yeah. And that's something that we're probably going to see later on. Dutch Goku may be like, oh, I don't like Blaze's team. I'm going to pick Grand Bull round 6 or Gardevoir round 4 or something like that. Um,
I have a
but
question for
yeah,
chat as well. Oh, sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, at this point, I think I like Dutch Goku's team the most as of now. Like, the Dialga Lando core is super strong, and then he has arguably the best safe swap in the entire draft meta to go with it.
Oh, yeah, me as well. And like you said, the Mew sometimes has trouble bulking its way through some of these tougher matchups, but it's so versatile. You can definitely grab some shields, and it's going to be a very, very powerful Pokemon. I like it as well. I feel like maybe adding a bit more bulk is going to be important here, especially with the Lando and Mew. Maybe adding some thicker 4th and 5th round
Yeah.
picks. Good.
So Mew is actually pretty thick.
Okay.
It's got comparable bulk to Kyogre, I think, actually. But the Lando is a bit squishy. The problem with the Mew is that it just doesn't quite hit hard enough to kill some of these dragons with like Ice Beam or stuff.
Exactly right.
So I think we can move on to round 4 now and start looking at how they're going to shape out the rest of their teams here. So yeah, as we saw before, we see the Sylveon pick come up for Heater. I don't know if I love this pick because Dragonite tends to beat pretty much all the other dragons than Dialga anyways, and you've got the Melmetal. I'm not necessarily sure if you need a Charmer here.
Yeah, I think as we were pointing out earlier, the Dragonite seems to be kind of gathering bodyguards, but Dragonite is a good anti-dragon itself. It's also a great generalist in a lot of these other neutral matchups. So I don't know that I hate the Sylveon pick so far, but I would like to see how the next two picks go for
Yeah.
here.
And then David for round 4 takes Snorlax. So it's kind of a Dialga counter, but not really a Dialga counter. But it's also outside of like Payback Machamp, it's pretty good at breaking the Dialga Mew combination.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. I think Snorlax is another kind of story of a very, very bulky Pokemon that we do see a lot in MLPC, but it also doesn't hit very hard. Even like if you land an Outrage or an Earthquake, a lot of these legendary Pokemon tend to shrug them off. So it's
Yeah.
going to be an interesting Pokemon to maybe stall at the
One
time.
other thing that I'm seeing now looking at this is David doesn't have a Dragon Resist at this point, which could be a problem later. It also means that Mew could run Dragon Tail against him, which not only hits the Snorlax for neutral, but also is gonna give his 2 dragons there some problems. Someone in chat says David needed Walrein. I don't know. I think if David thought he needed Walrein, he probably would have taken Mamoswine here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think the Snorlax is maybe to address the shared weakness to Giratina that the Kyogre and the
Yeah.
Latios have, perhaps.
But
Maybe?
again, he has the same problem here that we mentioned with Cabana earlier, and also with the Dragon Tail Mew, is you can just run Dragon Tail, Origin, Dragon Breath Altered against him, and now that Snorlax isn't an Origin wall anymore. It's not an altered wall anymore.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
he may want a Charmer or a Steel in his later rounds too.
No, absolutely. Alright.
All right, 789's next pick continues his trend of things that only have nuke moves. He takes Regice, which people know I enjoy using way more than I should.
Okay.
I think this is it. I don't know if I think he should have done this over Mamos.
Mhm.
Um, he has very little fast move pressure right now, which could be a problem for him.
Mhm.
Um, show the plushie. Stefan says show the plushie.
Uh-oh. Do we have a Regice plushie? No way.
Yes, yes, we do. I don't even know if it's on. Yeah, there we go. Show the plushie.
Chat. Let's get some Regice love in the chat.
Yeah,
I was gonna
but
ask you, Chris. So sometimes these Pokemon get moveset updates. We've heard that the Regis are getting some new moves. Are the trainers able to TM as these new moves become available?
so the trainers can use all the moves that were announced before the draft started. So in this
Mm.
case, the draft started when Thunder was announced for Regice, so 789 will be able to use Thunder on his Regice. The other moves on the other Regis were announced after the draft started, so they will not be able to be used. So whoever takes Regirock is going to have to live with having Focus Blast and not Earthquake.
Oh, that's tough. Okay.
Yeah, and again, definitely now I think we're seeing why 789 opted for Gudra instead of Latios, because that's another thing that does not want to fight SmackDown T-Tar at all. Although you can run Focus Blast for it, which is a pretty clean one shot.
No, absolutely. Still a lot of versatility, but those new movesets are always exciting.
Yeah. So 789 well on his way to building a very strong team that loses to everything in the 2 shield.
Exactly.
So Blaze, we were saying we think Blaze needs an anti-charm for his next pick.
Mm.
Just run Rock Smash Regice. Please do not run Rock Smash Regice. So we see the Heatran come out from Blaze.
Oh, red eyes is a concern.
Cabana is probably not very happy right now. Yeah, so that covers the charm weakness. It also covers the Gust of Veltal weakness, which is good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yikes. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the teams, like you mentioned, Cabana's team is, oh, this does not look too good.
Yeah, so yeah, Heatran's had a little bit of a resurgence lately. In the very early seasons of draft, it was like a round 2 or 3 pick, and then people realized it was not very good, and then it became undrafted a few times. But it's starting to head back up the rankings a bit. It's pretty good against a lot of the newer additions. It's very good against the Z's. Can beat Ho-Oh with Stone Edge. You have Iron Head, although you don't run that very often because it's just not that good a move, and usually the Stone Edge coverage is better than the double shielded or the double Iron Head, whatever. Stefan says he's terrified to shield his Garchomp from a Thunderbait from Regice.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, I think this pick makes a lot of sense for Blaze. Covers the charm weakness, as well as he didn't have an ice resist before. Granted, Regice still beats Heatran with Earthquake because you just outpace it. Walrein can also beat Heatran with Earthquake. Whoever takes Mamoswine, Cabana is crying right now. Probably true. Yeah, I'm very interested to see what Cabana does here now that his beloved Heatran has been taken. But Oscar gets the chance to take something else from him first. So let's see what he does.
Oh.
And there's the T-Tar.
All right. I'm trying to think of how this fits together. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so definitely think he was targeting 789 a bit with that because Oscar's team was pretty weak to Mewtwo before that. Yeah, I think that makes sense. The Bite T-Tar is pretty good against Dutch Goku and Sniped right now. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for Oscar.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Tyranitar versus Regice matchup, and you do pick up the 2s. SmackDown's going to deal almost 10% health every single time to Regice, which SmackDown's going to hurt.
One thing I'm noticing with Oscar's team now, he has a very big Gyarados problem. Especially because you do not want to run SmackDown against an Excadrill team if you can avoid it.
You're right. You're right.
So he may be looking for a grass or an electric later on. But yeah, I think we can see what Cabana does now.
Oh, Cabana, come on. What do you have for us?
He has what we refer to as Walmart Kyogre in the business. So Melodic has become a lot better after the Dragon Tail buff. It's a pretty big player in the Premier Overused meta that for the tourney we mentioned earlier, and it's maybe a little early to take it here, but also he desperately needed something that resists ice, and Melodic definitely resists ice.
That's true. Melodic was a great safe switch in that overused tournament from, I believe, a week or two ago. And I realized that it doesn't hit very hard in a lot of matchups. The Dragon Tail pressure is great. It's got a pretty spammy surf after only a few of those fast moves. But it's got Blizzard and Hyper Beam, but I don't know that it has much closing power.
Yeah. So it's very bulky, but doesn't hit hard, as you said, which it could be interesting here for Cabana, but I think Regirock would have been a better anti-Icemon for him to take here than Melodic. I think he might have been able to get this next round. I don't think Regirock's going to come back. I think, at least for the Icemons that we've seen picked so far, I think Regirock does better against those teams than Melodic does. But he definitely could have done a lot worse than this, though.
That's true. Pidgey is still available, right? I'm just kidding.
Pidgey is still available. Jirachi is the better anti-ice here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jirachi is probably going to get picked pretty soon here. So there's no way Snipe doesn't take Mamoswine here, because Snipe freaking loves his Mamoswine. Oh, yep, look at that. So he finally takes a Zarude counter, although it's not the greatest Zarude counter. But it also beats the Zekrom and it beats the Togekiss. So definitely has a lot of play there. Definitely runs Stone Edge on that against 789 for the Regice and the Ho-Oh. I think this is pretty good value for him at this point, honestly. Double ground is a little interesting.
Yeah, you're not going to want to go any deeper with that, with a fire type or another ground, because you don't want to get washed away by Kyogre completely, right?
Yeah. Although he's definitely not in the worst position against Kyogre of anyone here.
Agreed.
But yeah, and the other thing is, now we were talking about Oscar having a Gyarados problem. That's 2 ground types, so you're probably not going to want to address the Gyarados problem with an Electric Mon if you can avoid it.
Agreed.
So what does Dutch Goku take here? He said in the chat he didn't like Blaze's team against his. So we see the Gardevoir come out. So much for adding a bit more bulk to that team.
Yeah, you kind of threw that out of the window, right?
Yeah, so that thing charms very hard and dies very fast. So pretty much the epitome of hit hard, die fast.
No, exactly.
Yeah, you're almost certainly going to see the Shadow Gardevoir pretty much every time. I don't think normal Gardevoir has much play at all. There's not really a reason to run that instead. So we do see that come out here, possibly as a response to Blaze's team, although definitely does not want to fight the Heatran at all.
Ooh. Yeah, Heatran and Oscar's Metagross, probably the 2 hardest answers, right?
Yeah. He's also starting to get... He's got a bit of a Genesect problem as well. You can actually beat Dialga with Genesect straight Magnet Bomb in the 2-shield, which frees him up to be able to run the Douse Drive for the Lando. That hurts the Mew matchup a little bit, but I would be a little worried about that thing if I was Dutch Goku.
No, definitely. That's a really good point.
Yeah. All right. Is Fatal Error going to finally take a Kyogre counter? No, he is not.
No, Swampert, really? Okay.
So I think this was a mistake.
Yeah, I'm looking at how it fits against some of the other teams. I'm trying to see. I'm curious what chat thinks again.
Yeah, I saw someone earlier saying where Swampert had been picked yet. I was not surprised. It's very spammy, and water ground is pretty okay coverage, but there's so many dragons that just beat you down because you don't have nearly enough bulk. Fatal
I think
Error.
Fatal.
He did have an electric weakness before to go with his Kyogre weakness, and that sort of addresses that a bit, except you still die to Zapdos, so not really addressing the electric issue. He also doesn't have a Charm Resist.
Mm-hmm.
So
On the bright side, I think Swampert has a really fun day against Oscar. Right?
uh
3 of those.
it's not. It's so fun fact. Groudon wins the one shield. Mudshot Groudon wins the one shield against Swampert. Straight Earthquake.
Oh no.
It definitely has play there. Oscar says it's good against his team. Especially if you run Dragon Tail Groudon, which you could for the Yveltal, and it's still pretty good against the Zacian, even with Dragon Tail. And yeah, it's good against Metagross and T-Tar. Palkia, it can do a lot with Earthquake, but it's not the greatest matchup in the world. Palkia still wins. But I think the bigger problem here is, even though Swampert is like, it's decent value at this point, I would say, it doesn't fix your Zapdos problem. It doesn't fix your Charm problem. It doesn't fix your Kyogre problem.
Agreed.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, he's in. This is, as this goes on, it's going to become increasingly more difficult to cover all of those issues, because we just listed off 3 problems and he only has 2 picks left.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means if he wants to fix all of them, you're going to have to roll consolidate and maybe take a less valuable overall pick just to try to fix your weakness. On the other hand, this is a round robin. He could, in theory, just not take a Kyogre counter, give up on the Kyogre team, and just try to beat everyone else with what he has.
Pick one loss and then shore up
Yeah.
your wins against the others, right?
Yeah. That may be his strat here, actually. But yeah, so we'll see what Stefan goes with here on the 4-5 wheel.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, and there's the Regirock. I think that makes a lot of sense here. We were mentioning that as a possible pick for Cabana. I told him it wasn't going to come back, and it did not.
So, what are your thoughts on Stefan's matchup versus Darkest David? We were just talking about the Kyogre.
Yeah, so this is... I don't know why this always happens, but the Lugia and Kyogre teams seem to notoriously end up with the Kyogre team never picks a Lugia counter, and the Lugia team never picks a Kyogre counter. And that seems to be the case here as well at this point, is Lugia is really good against Darkest David's team, but you kind of need it on the Kyogre, because Kyogre is pretty good against the rest of your team. Although I think Dragon Tail Garchomp is fine against Kyogre. Shock Drive Genesect is fine against Kyogre and good against Latios and Snorlax. He can even run, Zapcan and Regirock. He needs Roserade. I don't know about that, but yeah. And then for round 5, what Stefan go with? Is it gonna...
Let's see.
Yeah, so... Well, so much for not having a Kyogre count.
Okay, goes Kyurem.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense here. That's like your last, it's pretty much your last good dragon. You've still got a lot of dragons that are probably going to get picked, but this is about the point where they start to trail off a bit. The dragon ice typing isn't a great typing to have defensively.
Yeah, I'm looking at the other matchups to see how this Kyurem will line up against some of these teams. Does have access to Blizzard and Draco Meteor.
Yeah. For the most part, you're probably going to be running Draco against everyone that doesn't have a Charmer, would be my guess.
Agreed.
Um, I think this team's really strong at this point, though. And the other thing is, there goes Kirim. There's another Kyogre counter that Fatal Error can't get. At this point, I think he kind of needs to take Haxorus here.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Yeah, and then again, like you said, if you take Haxorus, you're weak to Charm. But he
That
goes to
is
Master Zone.
not a Haxorus. Oh dear.
All right. So what are you
Um,
thinking here when you see the zone? I mean, finally you can wild charge Kyogre, but like we mentioned at the top of the call, the Kyogre waterfall will add up really quick.
yeah. So we tend to think of Magnezone as about a round 8 pick. So to see it go at all, honestly, is a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
On the one hand. On the other hand, it walls Zapdos. It resists Charm. It's okay against Kyogre. So this is a bit of what I was talking about with like you're weak to a lot of things and you don't have many picks left. So this is probably what I mentioned with the role consolidation of we need to there's too
Address
many
some
things I
weaknesses.
have to cover, so I'm going to have to take a bad Pokemon in order to cover everything. But I don't think there's any reason to take Magnezone here instead of just taking Zapdos yourself. Because you can still use that as your Kyogre counter, and you don't need a Zapdos counter if you have Zapdos.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
I think this pick really lives up to his name here. Yeah,
Maybe the
that
name is foreshadowing.
it could be, but yeah, this team still has a massive issue against Kyogre. Someone take Rhyperior. That's true. We have not seen Rhyperior get taken yet.
Right.
So let's see what Dutch Goku goes with here. Ooh.
Avalugg. All right. So I know there was a lot of hype around Avalugg. I know it's a great anti-dragon, but I don't know that it's extremely flexible, and the energy pacing seems a bit slow. It does have Body Slam, which is a low energy move, but the Ice Fang doesn't really encourage a lot of spam, right?
Yeah, so that's been my experience. My limited experience using Avalugg has pretty much been that. It's good at killing dragons that don't take neutral from ice, but it's not particularly flexible. It does, however, beat Snipe's entire team right now. So
Uh-oh.
we may see a direct response from that. It is very bulky. I think it's pretty good value at this point. I'm not sure if Goku needed it though, because he's already got Dialga Gardevoir for other dragons. He's not nearly as relying on Origin anymore though, which is nice.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely interesting here.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm curious to see how Sniped responds.
Yeah, probably right now would be my guess. I don't think he'll wait until round 6 to try to respond to that. Olaf says Jirachi in the chat. I think that could work pretty well for Sniped here. It also that thing's got pretty decent play against Stefan's team, against Cabana's team. Um, yeah, I think Jirachi would be a good pick for Sniped here.
Let's see. Let's see what we get. Oh, nice call.
It's almost as if I knew that. Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense for Snipe. Reggie Rock was pretty good against him. This beats Reggie Rock. It also has a lot of play against Lugia and Kiram, and even Garchomp if it's got Dragon Tail. Yes, and is pointed out in chat, it is one less steel type that Cabana can take.
No.
Yeah, and that's a pretty strong answer to Avalug. Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have opted for a fighter instead, which has a bit more play against Dialga, although Jirachi against Dialga is fairly neutral, with both dealing resisted damage. So when we're talking about Cabana before, he still does not have a charm resist, and oh dear, that is not a charm resist.
I know we're giving him a hard time about Charmers, but he's got the Togekiss, and then Heater has the Sylveon. Well, and then there's the Gardevoir for Goku. So there's, I guess, 2 options he needs to be concerned about.
Yeah. The problem here, though, is that he really wants that Togekiss for the Dragonite, or for the Dialga, with the rest of his team. So having to burn that on the Charmer is not a good situation for him to be in. Especially against Heater, where the rest of his team is not very good against Dragonite.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Ooh, okay.
Machamp,
I do like the Machamp is more of a direct deal and Tyranitar answer. Also helps a bit with the Regice as well.
yeah. The problem, though, is do you really want to have Machamp against the Mewtwo team?
Yeah, you're right. the Ho-Oh Mewtwo combo, goodness.
Yeah, it's not that bad against... You actually beat Ho-Oh because you it with the Rock Slides. But having to run that against Mewtwo is not necessarily the best thing in the world. That does give him another Avalanche. Run Rock Slide Payback.
I was just about to say Rock Slide Payback. That's the big tech.
Yeah, you'll definitely see Payback have some play here. But this thing's really good against Fatal Error, though, especially if he runs Snarl on Yveltal. You can beat Zacian if you invest shields because of you're doing more fast move damage than it is.
Ooh, you're right. Yeah, I'm looking at Fatal Error's team and the last 3 picks. Swampert has a good amount of pace to keep up with the Machamp, but the Walrein Magnezone will have a tough time when the shields are up.
Although now that I'm looking at it, this team is horribly weak to play rough wild charge Zacian. It's the entire team for super effective. Yeah. I know Cabana loves his Chandelure.
No way.
I really hope he doesn't take that because I don't see it having much play against these teams. But that is an anti-charmer, so we may see it come out.
Yeah, Bullet Punch Leonardo. Yeah.
Yeah. So then Oscar gets his next pick.
Okay.
And there we see Zap Daddy coming out to play.
Goodness, this is such bad news for Cabana again.
Yeah, so there's another Mon that destroys Cabana's team other than Zekrom. You also have pretty much just forced Fatal Error to run Magnazone against a team with Groudon,
Yep.
which is not a recipe for success. He could run. If I were him, I would be bringing Shadow Walrein against Oscar because you can 2-shield through the Zapdos as well as your Earthquake is strong enough that you can beat the Metagross if you can land it.
Yeah,
But
exactly right.
yeah, although Oscar now is also that helps him out a bit with the Kyogre. He was starting to get a little weak to it before that, even with the Palkia. Blaze is about to get his next pick. He's also kind of weak to Kyogre right now because the Kyogre actually wins the Zero Shield against Giratina Altered. When shields are in play, Altered's got a pretty strong matchup, but if David hides his whale in the back, that could be a pretty big problem. Yeah, Zapdos is also pretty strong against David in general, especially the Shadow Zapdos can actually win 1 shield against Reshiram as well as 0 shield against Latios if it doesn't throw Psychic.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, Zapdos has a lot of play here. You can actually Regice in the 2s with Shadow Zapdos as well. You beat it and
Oh my
leave
god.
with like entire health, all your health left. It's pretty good against the Lugia Genesect core too. I definitely think this is a really strong pick for Oscar at this point.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And still no Rhyperior in sight to scare the
Yeah,
Zapdos. He's got the other Smackdown.
someone's got to take Rhyperior pretty soon here.
Yeah.
Will it be Blaze? Probably not.
Agreed. That just makes the Kyogre weakness worse.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
and that's a good pick for Blaze here, I think. You've got a lot of play against David's team with that. Got a good amount of play against Sniped with it too, as well. You could either run to beat down the Drill and the Mamo, and even the Jirachi if you run Night Slash, and then you still have the Dragon Claws after to throw at Origin and Gary. So you can invest a shield, maybe counter down an Excadrill, and then throw a couple of claws at Origin. Yeah, from Daddy Panic, Zap Daddy to Hax Daddy. There we go. That's another
Stefan as well. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, against Stefan too. You're pretty good against Genesect, pretty good against Regirock, neutral against Kyurem. If he runs Mudshot Garchomp, I don't think he runs Mudshot Garchomp here though. I think he runs Dragon Tail, but the Mudshot variant would be another good matchup for the Haxorus. Also, another thing that looks really strong against Fatal Error outside of the Zacian. All right. What will 789 take that has no fast move pressure?
Let's see. Okay.
Okay, yeah. I think that that has some fast move pressure finally. That's also pretty good value at this point, I would say. The one thing is I think the team Rhyperior was best against is probably his team.
Agreed.
Anti couch pick boo. Yeah. Um Oh, that's true. That actually has a pretty good matchup against a lot of Stefan's Mons. You probably run SmackDown there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
You do have the Mud Slap, but I think SmackDown looks better there.
Yeah. You also protect yourself a bit from the Zapdos, which is pretty okay against most of that team already. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think this pick makes a lot of sense here.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't think he needs to pick anything else that's weak to Kyogre in round 6. If he doesn't do that, I'll be happy.
yeah. I don't think he's that weak to Kyogre right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Regice is Kyogre tends to win that, but especially with Thunder now, that's a pretty neutral matchup.
Agreed.
And Gudra is strong there. Mewtwo's another neutral matchup. I'd be he's definitely not the one I'm most worried about as far as Kyogres go. Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, Mewtwo. I don't think you want to bring that because that seems like Reshiram is going to have a lot of fun.
Right. For the memes. Okay.
Yeah,
They amended the comment.
for the memes. Yeah, so what does David need here? He's kind of weak to double dragons, although his dragons can beat most of the other dragons, so maybe not. He could use a strong Dialga counter though.
Agreed. A steal,
And yeah,
perhaps.
and this is what we were talking about earlier. There's the Conkeldurr from David. We saw the Rhyperior and the Machamp this round too. A
Mhm.
lot of people are getting Dialga counters now. So like Cabana didn't have one before now. 789 didn't have a great one before now because you can two shield through the Ho-Oh.
Mhm.
And David takes Conk here.
Mhm. Yeah, I really do like
Um,
this pick a lot. Like you said, addresses the Dialga. You got some moveset variability with Dynamic Punch and also the Stone Edge, which helps you against some of the flyers.
yeah. So a few things here. The first thing, he might be able to run. Yeah, I was just gonna say what chat said. Poison Jab Conk against Cabana's team.
Oh goodness.
Um, but
Yeah.
another thing is we look at some of these teams like Oscar doesn't have a fighting resist. Heater has Sylveon, I guess, but outside of that, you don't have anything to really take the moves. It's pretty good against Fatal Error's team too. Oh, he does have.
Zapdos.
Zapdos does resist fighting, but you also die to Stone Edge.
Yep.
So, and that's one advantage. So, Conk and Machamp are pretty similar. Both of them are counter users with the rock coverage. Um, but so Machamp's advantage is that you have a set flexibility. You have access to payback and close combat as well as cross chop rock slide. You can run bullet punch if you really want to, but I don't think you really want to.
Yeah.
Um, but then Conk is bulkier, so you can live a drill peck from the Zapdos and kill it with a Stone Edge, whereas Machamp can't kill it with a rock slide, and it can't really take the drill peck as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. A little bit slower, but a little bit bulkier, and does have some
Yeah.
very hard hitting moves.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Heater's about to be the first person to finish off his team here. Oh, that's true. Machamp can run Stone Edge if you want to use an Elite TM.
Oh, we see the armored Mewtwo come in here.
I think this is arguably the best value pick of the draft here.
Agreed.
It's it's a very bulky Pokemon, and Psystrike is really
Still a great
strong in
name.
case you people did not know.
You've got so what do you have, Chris? You've got Rock Slide, Dynamic Punch, and Earthquake. Right.
Yeah. I think that's it, unless you want Future Sight, but I don't think you ever want Future Sight. Yeah, Rhyperior was another one. That was a pretty big steal at that point. You could run Rock Slide Armored against 789. Oh, yeah, you hit the Mewtwo for neutral and the Ho-Oh for super effective, and the Regice.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. It also has a good amount of play against Blaze, I think, outside the altar. I'm not sure how the Meloetta matchup goes. Probably Meloetta wins just because of having higher stat product, and they're both doing resisted with the confusions. But I'm sure
Maybe
you
if
beat
you-
Zamazenta, Heatran, Haxorus.
Let me see. Maybe if you do Dynamic Punch, I'll look.
You might actually need Earthquake to kill Heatran. I'm not sure Dynamic Punch is going to be enough, but... And then this is another thing that, like, if Fatal Error doesn't bring a Veltal, which you really don't want to bring against Sylveon, Lando, Melmetal, Dragonite, but you kind of have to bring it now because Armored kind of just beats the rest of that team.
It looks like the Dynamic Punch is going to do... one moment, sorry. Dynamic Punch against...
I think Heatran barely lives.
It takes about 45%. So I agree. I think Earthquake is the way against Heatran, but the Dynamic Punch can help you against Meloetta, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They're both going to be neutral against Meloetta, so the question is, can you do... And we're also forgetting Heater doesn't need to run Psystrike. He can run Rock Slide Earthquake if he wants to.
It's true.
I know someone on PoGoRaids decided to stick with the non-Psystrike Armored Mewtwo for draft for a bit.
Someone who shall remain anonymous, right?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of these people probably have 2 Armored Mewtwo's built for that specific reason. But yeah, I think that's a good pick for Heater. The one thing I am worried about Genesect if I am Heater right now. Depending on what moves it brings, it can potentially beat anything on the team. Probably you go Magnet Bomb Burn Drive at this point. Stefan says be quiet. Yeah. So, yeah, but that could cause a lot of problems. And also, outside the Melmetal, he doesn't really have anything for the Lugia.
Yeah, also a really good point.
I don't think Rock Throw Lando is the trick there.
What? Let me see here. I'll look at Armored Mewtwo and Lugia.
Yeah. Oh, that is a disastrous matchup for Armored Mewtwo. I don't even have to see that.
Right. A super effective Rock Slide does 24%. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Yeah. So, well, let's see what Heater takes around 6 to round out his team. Oh.
Suicune.
Well, Suicune. So that actually solves the Magnet Bomb Burn Drive Genesect problem because it resists both of those moves. So now he's going to have to... Stefan's going to have to choose which 5 Mons he wants to beat instead of just beating everything.
Okay.
It's also a pretty neutral matchup against Lugia Shock Drive Genesect.
I gotta
you could do that. You probably don't beat Melmetal, but if you're using Melmetal on Genesect instead of a Lugia, that's a win for Stefan.
I'm looking at some of these lineups, and there's a lot of Pokemon here that do not want to take a stab Hydro Pump with the shields down.
Yeah. The problem with Suicune, though, is that it does not hit very hard at all. So you would think that Regirock into Suicune is pretty good for Suicune, but Regirock actually wins that matchup. Because you can live the Hydro Pump and you just outpace.
Yeah.
Snarl does less damage than Lock On in some cases because of rounding, because Suicune's attack stat is just so low.
Yeah.
We also see Heater. He ended up with a little bit of a Kyogre problem.
Oh, okay.
Dragonite was his only strong answer. Armored's a pretty neutral matchup. Suicune's pretty neutral if it doesn't have Thunder, but since Dragonite takes neutral from Thunder, I think you just go with that. He is also, I see someone in chat talking about it too, he's really weak to Regirock as a closer, because you actually live the Earth power and you can kill the Lando with 2 Stone Edges.
Okay. That's pretty tough.
Yeah. I could see him having problems with Regice as well. Maybe even Snorlax.
What moveset on Regice? Do you go Blizzard or Thunder with your Earthquake?
I definitely Blizzard Earthquake here. You could go. I think you go Earthquake over Focus Blast because you need 2 moves to kill the Melmetal anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think you can kill Suicune with 2 Focus Blasts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the secret strat versus Heater, just swap Regirock and don't care. Pretty much. Yeah. Alright, let's see what David takes to round off his squad.
Let's see.
Oh boy.
There it is. Okay.
There it is. So
you have a dragon answer now.
You do. Granddaddy himself has arrived. So I believe David said he knew he was going to take Granbull round 6 after he saw the draft order.
Really? That's all he needed to see?
Yeah. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to need that round 6." Yeah, so Granbull is a little bit of a meme on PoGoRaids server. We definitely see it get picked rather often, mostly by people who are very desperate for a dragon counter round 6, which appears to be David in this scenario. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this. I think you could have gotten a better overall pick here, but I'm not sure you had a better answer as far as specifically an anti-dragon was concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't mind it as much. I think answering the dragons is pretty good, but I feel like it's going to be an interesting mental exercise to play David's team, because you do have steel answers and you do have dragon answers, but it's spread out a little bit here.
Yeah. Another thing though is we look at Cabana's team again, and if you kind of make him use Togekiss on the Grand Ball, and then doesn't have much left over to deal with that loss after that.
Exactly.
Yeah, Grand Ball does have a pretty
good resume,
extensive record of championships, actually. Somehow this desperation pick ends up doing a lot better than most of the other desperation picks we see.
Nice. Okay,
So,
I'm excited.
Yeah, so we'll see what 789 chooses to wrap up his team here. And we see the Heracross.
Okay.
What is that for? I guess that could be for David's team. Other than the Grand Ball, I think you can beat everything else. in theory. Close combat is very strong against a lot of things. Stuff like Kyogre, Reshiram, Zekrom, they just barely don't have enough bulk to live the one shield combo of back-to-back close combat, and they just barely get outpaced to back-to-back close combat.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm looking at a close combat Mega Horn combination, and it seems to have pretty good utility against a lot of
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably what you roll with against David. You don't want to bring Granbull against Mewtwo, Ho-Oh, Regice, and Rhyperior if you can help it. Yeah. It's got the Rock Blast now too, so you aren't hopelessly walled by Lugia, although I think Mega Horn is probably still a better move to throw at Lugia than Rock Blast is.
I'm sure you still get fried by Zapdos, but at least you have the Rock Blast to force your
Yeah.
shield if the Zapdos is already chipped.
And again, we see another person who is abusing the fact that Cabana's only counter to you is Togekiss. You wall the Zarude, you beat the Melodic, you beat the Machamp. The Zekrom's a pretty neutral matchup.
Oh my goodness. So I take that back earlier, Chris. Sorry. The Drill Peck from Zapdos does 111%, and your Rock Blast from your Heracross is only going to do 37% to a Zapdos.
Yeah, Rock Blast is just... it's
great.
nice, but it's not a good move, and it's better in like Great League and Ultra League. You had the DP caps means things have like less relative bulk, but up here where your moves are dealing about the same damage, but you have more bulk to deal with them, it just doesn't. It's not up to par anymore.
Agreed.
You have something to hit Giratina with, but I don't think you run Heracross against that team. Even if you don't have a great Excadrill answer besides that.
Exactly, because you have the Jirachi to contend with, and also the Gary.
Yeah, Rock 789 says Rock Blast is only baiting, but nobody baits here. So,
agreed.
All right. Definitely though, like we said earlier, no place for Rock Blast in the all nukes team. But yeah, we see another Mon that beats Dialga going in the later round. So we're definitely seeing the last few picks. Granbull was the only one that stands up to Palkia, really. But we see a lot of anti-Dialga Mon going here.
No, absolutely.
Oh, true. I forgot. Heracross gets Earthquake also.
Megahorn Earthquake Combat, I believe.
Yeah. So we can see what Blaze wraps his team up with now.
Something that at least soft counters Charm. Yep, Scizor.
Yeah, there we go. So, and we see another Steel type get snaked from Cabana before he has the chance.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think this has a lot of play against Dutch Goku's team. It has a lot of play against Cabana's team. Really, only the Machamp's a pretty strong answer to it. But do you really want to run Machamp into Altered plus Meloetta? Probably not.
Yeah, I'm looking at all these different dragons, and we know that Steel obviously resists the Dragon Tails. Then you've got Night Slash, Ironhead, X Scissor. So you hit back against things like Lugia.
Yeah.
Ironhead good against like a Regirock or the Kyurem.
Yeah, it has a lot of play against Stefan's team too. You could, in theory, 2-shield through the Genesect if it goes straight Technoblast. I don't know if you want to do that, but And you can actually beat Zekrom with Shadow Scizor if Blaze has that.
Ooh, okay.
And it's another thing that is pretty well. It's not great against Fatal Error, actually.
Mm. Yeah, I looked at that early on, but the Swampert and the Magnezone.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it's not even that great of a Zacian counter either.
Agreed.
Yeah, you could use it against Oscar, maybe not.
Mm.
I don't know. I think this is mostly for Stefan Goku and Cabana.
Agreed. Yeah,
Maybe 7, 8, 9, but that Ho-Oh though.
yeah. Looking at Oscar's team, Fire Punch, Groudon, could be Smackdown, Tyranitar, and then I don't think Scizor really appreciates Drill Peck, even though it's a
No, not really. But yeah, you can. It's okay against Dialga. Lando's pretty bad for it, but the other three, unless you run Flame Charge Mew, which you might, Scizor doesn't really appreciate anything. TBH, Scizor doesn't appreciate your attitude. YCP. But yeah, that's another pick that I think 789 won championship with round 6 Scizor.
Mhm.
So
All right. Mega
we
Scizor
can,
when? Yeah, good question.
yeah. So we can see what Oscar rounds off his team with now. And we see another another steel type taken before Cabana gets the chance.
Oh no. Okay. I like
um
I like Escaf here.
Yeah, that's another. It's got similar to Scizor, I think. You have again a lot of play against Cabana's team outside of Togekiss.
Look at
A
it
lot
versus
of
Coach Goku.
against Goku too. Other than the Lando, you don't have a super strong answer. Although you can just two shield charm through an S-Cav if you wanted to with Shadow Guard.
Mhm.
And then you can get farmed down by Metagross and killed by everything.
And then swept,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Durant next. Oh, I hope not.
Oh, please,
But yeah,
please.
and it has a lot of play against Fatal Error too.
Hmm.
You've got counter and drill run for the Magnezone. The Mega Horn does a lot to Swampert. You have counter for Wall Rain. If Veltal's probably a fairly neutral matchup, I'm guessing if Veltal wins that, but probably with energy, Escav does decently. And then same with the Zacian. Zacian definitely has the upper hand, but if you wait to throw until after it debuffs, then you can just acid spray the Zacian. I don't
Easy,
know
easy
about
clap.
that. But yeah, I think that's a pretty. It's not even that bad against David, honestly. You can. It beats Reshiram if it doesn't have Fire Fane. You beat Gramble because you're a Steel type.
Hmm.
You can beat Latios because you have Mega Horn. You can beat Snorlax, although that's a bit closer than you might expect for Fire Fane Zacian against Palkia team, though. Yeah, I don't think you run Fire Fane there.
Exactly, yeah.
Although it does have Metagross too, but
Hmm.
yeah, I don't think so. All right, what does Cabana choose to round off his team here? Does he go for the Chandelure?
Oh, I don't know.
I really
I don't know
hope
what to think.
not. Maybe the bug steals scared him. No, oh, he goes Raikou.
Okay. I'm trying to.
Uh that's not that bad for him, I don't think.
Hmm.
It fixes up the bug steel weakness. Double electric is interesting. I don't know how I feel about that.
You do have Shadow Ball.
Yeah, you have Shadow Ball. It was one of the better things left, probably. And it fixes it walls Zapdos, so it fixes that weakness at least.
Beats the Gary as well.
Yeah, although can you run Raikou in double ground?
That's a good question, right? Shadow Ball for the
he may have to.
Yeah, you might have to.
Yeah, you do have Shadow Ball for the Origin at least, and that like you make Fatal Error bring Swampert against you now.
Yep.
Return Raikou for ground coverage. Maybe. He also finally gets like he needed Electivire for sniped. Ice Punch Flamethrower, is that what's being suggested here?
For Vire? I mean,
Yeah.
You could, but does that mean you should, Chris? Does it mean you should?
I don't think so. You can definitely win some games with some pretty bad gimmicks, but
Yeah.
it looks pretty good against 789's team outside of the Rhyperior. The Regice matchup is fairly neutral. Gudra's not good for it, but I don't think this is a bad pick, but I'm not sure it's what Cabana needed. I think he may Togekiss there round 3 was pretty good value for him, I think, but I think he ended up a little too weak to ice from that, and he didn't necessarily recover. Although nobody's taken Articuno yet, so he may get off the hook there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I would have liked to see the picks reversed, maybe Raikou a bit earlier, and then fill out with the other ones, but we'll see.
Maybe. Although there's so many dragons now, so many grounds. Like we look at all teams. Heater has a ground type. 789 has a ground type. Oscar has a ground type. Everyone's got, for the most part, something that like destroys Raikou.
True.
It's getting a lot harder to use. It used to be a much earlier pick in draft before we had so many things. All right. Snipe gets to finish off his team now. He's a little weak to the monkey still. I'd like to see him take... Yeah, that is a very hard monkey counter.
I like this pick a lot.
Yeah, that's actually, again, that's really good against everything Cabana has except for the Togekiss. And you have an Excadrill, a Mamoswine, and a Jirachi.
Wow. Yeah, I like this pick a lot.
That is true. Dutch Goku did one time pick Raikou round 2. Yeah, Virizion here. It's got some decent play against Goku as well. Can beat Dialga, can beat Lando. I'm not sure what the Avalugg matchup looks like because you're dealing super effective to each other. I'm guessing Virizion. I'm guessing Virizion probably wins the one shield and loses the others.
Yeah, let's see.
Maybe not, though.
It looks pretty
wow. Avalugg destroys you. If you have close combat, maybe.
Yeah, Sacred Sword just doesn't hit hard enough.
Yeah, even close combat's not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, and then you tend to beat most Mew sets with Virizion, unless it's like Flame Charge Ice Beam, which might actually be what he runs against Sniped.
Oh, yeah, I could definitely see that.
But, yeah, and again, this is another thing that, like, you beat a lot of Fatal Errors mons with this.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not great against Zacian, but you could even run Stone Edge for the Veltal maybe, because I don't know if you necessarily need a fight. A slight breeze beats Fatal Errors mons. Oh dear. But yeah, I like that pick. Even if he's only going to use it against Cabana.
Yep. Yeah, I do like that pick a lot. Looking at these other teams as well. I
Yeah.
want to say it looks pretty useful against Heater's team as well, barring Ice Beam Suicune. It could be pretty solid there.
I don't think you can run that against Heater, honestly, because the Sylveon destroys it, the armor destroys it.
Yeah.
Even if you have Stone Edge, the Dragon Knight beats it pretty bad. I think you're fine against Heater with
If you can
what
force
you
him to
with your
run,
other mons, yeah.
yeah, if you can force him to run Melmetal, Lando, and maybe some Suicune, but then again, he's got the double ground as well, which means that
Yeah.
they're going to be bringing things to counter those.
Yeah. For sure. And then Goku gets the chance to wrap his team up with a bad dragon.
Hi, Dragon. Okay.
Hydreigon. I guess Goku wanted the double dragon strat here, if I had to guess.
Hmm.
I
So
don't
what do we make of this?
necessarily see a team here though that really screams, "Damn, I want to run Hydreigon against that."
Agreed.
Um, it's
Yeah.
good value, but I don't see it having that much use, honestly. It doesn't fix the Escav weakness. It doesn't fix the Scizor weakness. He could have picked Latios instead of adding another fighting weakness. I don't. I guess adding another bug weakness, is that really better than adding another fighting weakness? He has a huge problem with Genesect.
Oh yeah. Genesect is bad news. Bad news bears.
Maybe Goku's the one who needed Chandelure. Maybe 789 brings up a point about the bite T-Tar. He might have been worried about that. I guess you can run Hydreigon against Oscar, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You beat Palkia zeros, you beat Metagross zeros. Pretty sure you beat T-Tar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how Groudon goes. I think you beat Mudshot, but you definitely lose to Dragon Tail, and you lose to the Escav.
Yeah. Agreed. Not terrible versus Zapdos, I assume. Well, your pacing is a lot slower, so you might need to worry
Yeah.
about.
Oscar says run Hydreigon against Oscar. It's not bad against Blaze, I guess, but also the Scizor is probably coming every game.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know about this. I think he could have found something better, because I think a lot of the things he was weak to before, this doesn't help with, and I don't see any team in particular that's really standing out as weak to Hydreigon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even a Dragon Claw from Haxorus is going to deal 51% to the Hydreigon.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. All right. What is Fatal Error gonna do to try to salvage this mess?
Let's see. What do you have for us, Effie?
Oh, okay. Well, that's an actual Kyogre counter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if David, or not David, I think if Goku wanted Double Dragon, I think he should have taken this instead of Hydreigon, because you
Agreed.
beat the Bug Steels and you beat the fighters. Um,
So I
this
actually have.
might
Go ahead, Chris.
I think this is actually a pretty decent pick for Fatal Error at this point. It's got a lot of play against David's team outside of the Grand Bowl. It's got a good amount of play against 789's team, although you're definitely fighting SmackDown Rhyperior if he brings it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually am not very familiar with Rayquaza in draft formats. It's kind of been pushed out of PvP by a lot of these other picks that we've seen on the board. Is this a common pick late round in these drafts?
I would say since the Dragon Tail buff happened, it usually picked. Prior to that, it was pretty much never picked.
Okay.
The other Master League draft format they have at PoGoRaids, other than this like open anything goes format, is the overuse format, which bans pretty much the first 16 picks we see here, plus Garchomp. And Rayquaza gets picked a lot earlier in that. It's not actually that bad. I think Stefan says late 5th now. I think I agree with that. You probably are going to see it get picked most seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stefan gets the final pick of the draft. Yeah, that doesn't really fix the problems, and then we see Terrakion as the last pick here.
All right.
That beats Fatal Error's whole team besides Swampert, I think.
Yeah, SmackDown is really oppressive here.
Yeah. Especially against Good versus Goku as well. Yeah, I can see it having a lot of play against Goku. You could maybe run it against 789. Maybe not. I don't know. But definitely this is probably a direct response to, oh, you want to RPS my Lugia with your Magnezone? I'm just going to kill your whole team with this instead.
Yeah, I'm looking at Darkest David's team, and I think Kyogre sweep all 3 games, right? If you can try to...
I don't think, because there's not really a reason not to run. There's no reason not to run Lugia against Darkest David, and I think you probably run Kyurem too. So, fun fact about Kyurem, as bad as it is typing wise, you somehow outpace Conkeldurr and win the one shield against it.
Goodness, okay.
I think if their best buddy are missing a break/bulk point, you can flip it pretty easily. It's a little bit fragile, but definitely not as bad against fighters as you might think it is. So that wraps up the draft. Before we look at all the teams, are there any Mons that you're surprised did not get picked?
Ooh, okay. That's a really good question. Let me think about it.
And this goes for chat too, if there's anything. Personally, the one I was surprised at was, I don't know how Cabana managed to avoid anyone picking Articuno.
Definitely, yeah. We mentioned Articuno once when we mentioned the other ice types in the meta. That's interesting.
Yeah, Latios. Yeah, I could see that as well. Latios has a lot of play against 789, I think. And also a lot of play against Blaze's team. Prior to the Scizor pick, at least. Surprised Cabana didn't take Chandelure. So was I, honestly. I was like, he's built this team so weak to Ice and Charm, he's like purposefully setting himself up for a round 6 Chandelure pick.
I think this is more of a meme than a real pick, but I do have a special place in my heart for Hippowdon, and we don't see any hippos here, right?
Yeah, so Hippo actually used to get picked in champs rather frequently prior to the addition of the Z's to the meta. Stefan is a big fan of Hippo. Yes, Stefan is notorious for drafting Hippo, hating it, saying he's never going to pick it again, and then picking it again the next season. But yeah, we see the Hippo some of the time. No Darkrai. We have not seen Darkrai get picked in a champs lobby in a few seasons now, I think.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So outside of Hippowdon, was there anything that surprised you?
No, I think chat mentioned Moltres not getting picked. That's a fire type.
Moltres.
You get your charm
I'm
resist.
I'm a bit surprised at that because Fatal Error's team looks rather weak to Moltres as
Yeah.
well. If you have a really good IV Shadow Moltres, you can actually beat Swampert with it.
Oh my goodness. Straight sky attack, or do you need
Yeah,
to?
straight in the ones you'll win. You need a Mudshot bulk point, and then you will live a Hydro Cannon and kill it with the wind attacks plus the sky attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Surfetch, that's one that we see get picked often. Goon and Lapras, we don't really see. I guess Obstagoon wouldn't have been bad against Snipe's team, but we don't see Goon very often. I think Snipe picked Lapras either last season or the season before that, but that was because Stefan made an entire team that lost to Lapras. A lot
Nice.
of these like later round picks, the value fluctuates so much depending on what teams other people made. So
Of course.
yeah, so we don't see Lapras this season because no one built a team weak to Lapras, but it's definitely something that we've seen get picked before.
Mm.
I don't think Entei. Stefan did beat Lapras 4-0 with the full lose to Lapras team. Entei we don't really see because every single team has a dragon usually. And you don't have a coverage move for dragons with Entei. You're pretty much straight fire, and everyone has fire resist.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So, which team here is your favorite?
My favorite, let's see. I honestly really like Snipe's team. I think Sniped has a really, really well balanced team. You've got some weaknesses to charm, but also some good answers. I like the double ground, and I like that he really protects the double ground from the fighters and the Kyogre pretty flawlessly with the Origin, the Gyarados, the Jirachi, and the Verzian in different ways.
Okay, I'm being told that we actually have an undrafted pick screen
Oh,
to
okay.
share. So let's get that up here. I think this was I'm not sure who came up with this, but
Okay.
this might be the champs picks themselves for what the best undrafted mons were. We see a lot of those we mentioned already, but we also see Polion and Cresselia on there.
Yeah. Crescent Masters, really? Okay.
Yeah, so Crest functions pretty similar to the Regis in that it's super bulky and doesn't do any damage. But its moves aren't quite as good coverage wise. Yeah, this is Stefan's selection for the best picks. But yeah, Cresselia is uh it's not that uncommon actually to see Cresselia picked. I have 2 level 40 Cresselias, one with Grass Knot and one without Grass Knot. So it definitely gets picked on some occasions.
Gotcha.
Darkrai, I think we see Cresselia more often than Darkrai these days, honestly. Stefan did almost pick Pangoro for you, Sniped.
Really?
Yeah.
You say so.
Yeah. And then Empoleon's another one that Stefan making this list explains the absence of Hippo. True.
Come on, Stefan. You got to add the hippo back in there. Bring it back.
Yeah, Empoleon has the dubious distinction of being a steel type that loses the 0 shield to Togekiss. So
That's so rough. Ugh.
unless you have Flash Cannon.
That's the big tech, right?
Yeah. But
Ooh, Roserade. Yeah.
Roserade, I don't think we've ever seen Roserade get picked in the Champs division. It's just not strong enough. Like you can't resist all of Zacian and then still lose and get picked.
Exactly. Oh goodness.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So can we get the whole teams back again? I want to give us a chance to look at those all. And yeah, there we go. So I agree. I like Snipe's team a lot. I also like Stefan's team a lot. Those first 3 picks, the Lugia and then 2 anti-Steelmons, I think that's gonna prove to be a really strong core. Especially we're looking at like a lot of these teams are really weak to Genesect. Cabana is really weak to Genesect. Heater is really weak to Genesect. Goku is really weak to Genesect.
Yeah, I like 789's team as well, just because it's going to be very exciting to watch, right? A lot of
Yeah.
nukes and shields going fast.
Yeah, I agree. Also, the sheer terror of his opponents not wanting to shield a muddy water from Gudra.
That's
Like,
content.
yeah. But yeah, I think what we're seeing here, a lot of the people mentioned like they like Goku, Snipe, Oscar, Stefan, and we also were saying like Fatal Error and Cabana. Some of their picks might have been a bit too early, and we see like a lot of the teams people are saying are stronger are the ones that are picking around them. So that's one thing we see happen in draft.
Mm. No, absolutely. I like them all though. This is gonna be interesting, and I really I'm rooting for our trainers like Fatal Error and Cabana, who seem to have a pretty significant composition disadvantage. I really want them to still do well.
Yeah. Okay. If we want to, we could actually dig into just quickly looking through some of these matchups on PvPoke and seeing how they might fare against each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna share my screen, so we may bear with us while the layout changes because this might mess a few things up.
Hey, try now. Can they hear us, you think? Or
Can we be heard? That is the $1,000,000 question. We can be heard.
okay.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Now I can
Alright.
pick the screen.
We have found the audio back.
Nice.
Now we
Alright.
just have to fix the images.
Hmm.
First stream was always going to have something go wrong. Yes, we managed to last a while before something went wrong, though.
Mm.
Um.
Mhm.
Oh dear. We appear to be playing musical video boxes with Discord right now.
It's all right. I can see the Sims here on the screen though.
Okay. Well, as long as we've got that, we can look at some few things. So yeah, we were mentioning Sniped has a Zarude problem. We can pretty clearly see that here, and also that explains the Virizion pick last.
Hmm.
We were talking about Fatal Error and Kyogre, so let's look at that here as well. Where is David's team? Yeah, so we see Zacian has some good matchups against the things that aren't Kyogre.
Ooh, absolutely.
But if we look at just the two shield against Kyogre, you do have Yveltal,
Hmm.
but I'm guessing that this is involving double Dark Pulse bait and then landing a Focus Blast, which is, not necessarily reliable.
That's very precarious.
Yeah. And then the Magnezone here is probably double mirror shot bait, and then you just barely don't die. If you go straight wild charge, you're gonna get waterfall down.
Wow. Yep.
Just run Gust versus David.
He has no steel. Okay, fair point.
Yeah, you could do that.
Hmm.
This Rayquaza pick, we're seeing exactly why Fatal Error wanted that last, because that can beat most of David's team.
A lot of these are really narrow. The Gusty Veltal, 450,
Yeah.
42, those are not big losses. Those are close.
Yeah, and then if you can farm that down with the Zacian, that's not that bad. Maybe we can look at one more matchup. If there's a particular, especially like round 6 pick that we're wondering about, we can probably figure out who that's for.
Ooh, okay. How about Snipe versus Stefan or Stefan?
Stefan. Yeah, so this is probably why he.
Mm.
Yeah, although that is not a Genesect with a Technoblast. But it's kind of tough to run Genesect into an Origin Gary team, especially with Excadrill, because you can't run Shock Drive for Gary and hit Excadrill.
Mm-hmm.
Gust Y baits out Bull. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of this is gonna be, especially in the later round picks, what I'll do and what I'm assuming a lot of these other people do is they're gonna go to Team Builder. They're gonna put in Fatal Error's team. They're gonna go here.
Uh-huh.
And then they're going to see, oh, this entire team loses to Terrakion other than Swampert. If I'm not great against Terrakion or against Fatal Error, maybe I want to take this.
Oh, exactly.
And we see a lot of the mons that we were talking about and being weak to, like Raikou, Terrakion, Zapdos. We're seeing all of those here. Articuno would have been good against him too.
Mm-hmm.
But so this is a lot of what I'll do, and what I'm assuming a lot of these drafters do is, if you have a rough matchup against a particular team, you'll just look through, see a potential on the potential threats thing. You can see like what has strong matchups against it.
Exactly. Try to find those weaknesses and
Yeah.
then capitalize.
Yeah, the downside here is you don't have the moveset variety. So, like we talked about him having Kyogre problems, we don't necessarily see that show up here because it's only looking at the Blizzard Kyogre, which the Walrein beats. But there's not really a reason. We mentioned before we want to show us the Pangoro versus Sniped. Pangoro versus Snipe. So yeah, we mentioned like whole team dying to Avalugg. Yeah, there's the Pangoro. Can beat everything except the Gyarados.
Wow. Okay. Panda. Pretty
Yeah.
strong.
But also, there are shortcomings to this in that, one, you don't necessarily know what moveset your opponent's going to run. So, like, I'm assuming Dragon Tail Origin probably handles Pangoro because Night Slash is not a particularly strong move. And you also don't see, like, you may see something that doesn't show up here that you're weak to if it runs a different move.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, with the Yveltal, not necessarily here, but, like, you may be fighting against Snarl Yveltal, and then you, like, completely die to Gust Yveltal.
Mm. Absolutely.
So,
Oof.
but yeah, so, I think we can probably try to wrap things up here a bit. I don't want to sim everything because, one, that'll take a lot of time. Two, these drafters probably don't necessarily want me to be revealing all of their potential strategies on the stream to all of their opponents.
Exactly. Yeah.
But do you have any big takeaways or any questions? This can go for you or for anyone in chat. I'm gonna stop the PV poke and we can go back to the draft teams again.
Yeah. Sounds good. No, I'm interested to see what chat says because a lot of these trainers in chat have been a part of these drafts before. So I'm really interested to see what they think about some of these picks. I know some of them surprised me, but this is also one of my first exposures to really seeing something this extensive. Winter Battles being streamed. Leonardo says starting next weekend. That's super hype.
Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. I stopped the stream and I accidentally disconnected from the Discord call.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I think I'm back now.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, so I'd say for the most part, this is about where I think a lot of these things tend to go. I think other than the Walrein, I don't think anything really went earlier than I would expect. And other than Rhyperior and Armored, I don't think anything went much later.
Yep.
Than I would normally expect. Magnezone is probably the only thing here that doesn't usually get drafted. I think this is the first time we've seen Terrakion get picked but I think this is also the first draft we've had since it got Sacred Sword, so that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we pointed out a few picks as the draft would go on. We mentioned Tyranitar sneaking up on a couple of teams, Zapdos, another one that looked pretty strong. I think Armored Mewtwo might have been my favorite value pick, as we talked about before. I think you mentioned something similar.
Yeah. I think Armored Mewtwo tends to go earlier than that. I think it just happened that this time you didn't necessarily have a team built that ended up really weak to Armored Mewtwo. And that the first 2 rounds are usually fairly stable. Even the third round doesn't change too much from draft to draft. But after that, a lot of picks, their value can fluctuate a lot depending on how cores end up in the first few rounds and then how the next rounds go as well. Because the end goal of the draft is obviously to just beat as many of the opponents as you can. And
yeah,
picks get more valuable the more useful they are against more opponents.
Exactly. No, this was a lot of fun. I think this is it's really interesting. And in terms of scheduling and streams, where can people tune in to watch the battles if you're prepared to announce that?
Yes. So the battles will be streamed on this same Twitch channel, so you should give it a follow if you have not already done that, and then you'll get notified when we go live with the battles. The plan as of now, I believe, is we're gonna do the first set of battles next weekend. How many battles that will be will depend on how ambitious our champs division is at setting up battles, but hopefully we'll have at least one game from everyone at that time. Battles in PoGoRaids are actually best of 4 and not best of 3. And if there is a tie, it just stays a tie. If
Okay.
there's a 2-2 tie, they don't play a fifth game. If one of the games ends in a tie, it just counts as a tie for the overall score. Some battles have already been done. I am aware of that. um, I am also aware that some of you people are not very good at remembering to hit the record button. So I'm not going to name any names, but yeah, so hopefully this was a good experience for everyone. About whose weren't recorded. That's sad. Yeah, it is sad. You'll find out when you turn in to watch the games that were recorded next weekend.
Absolutely. No, I had a lot of fun, and I'll definitely be tuning in to watch some of these Master League battles as I get more familiar with some of these niche picks. I think PoGoRaids does a lot of really cool things. They show Master League a lot of love that I feel like it really deserves and doesn't typically get in most of the formats that are available. So it's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah. All right. I guess we're supposed to raid another channel now. I think that is a job for what? Okay, maybe we're not going to raid another channel.
Yeah, it's up to it's up to you. It means /raid and then the name if you'd like to.
Oh, I did not know about that. Riz knows not who to raid.
Yeah.
Can I don't want more Regice. No, not that kind of raid. I don't know if I can do this or not. I can, I think. Okay.
You have the keys to the kingdom, if that's that's the case.
All right, maybe we'll just end the stream. We'll teach tech support how to raid for the next time.
Yeah, so you could pick Kanto Ninetales, someone else get the other? Yes.
I
Oh,
guess
yes.
I'll read the channel that admins are telling me to. So, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so Alolans are separate picks, but the Shadows are not.
Mm-hmm.
And also the reason that the Genesects are the same pick, but the Giratinas and the Landorus are not, is because the Giratina forms have different stats, but the Genesect forms do not.
Same for the Mewtwo, armored Mewtwo, of course,
Yes. Yes.
right? Mm-hmm.
These are not level 50. These are all. This is a classic draft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess we are rating Purple Kyogre.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Oh, yes, you can use Best Buddy as well. All right, thank you all for joining to watch the draft. Thank you, Speediest, for all of your assistance here.
No, of course. I had a great time. Oh, it looks like the raid went through as well.
Yes, it is.